bottom line. And finally, iterate. Effective governance is an ongoing journey, not a final destination.
We've covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, from the core definitions of data governance all the way to applying these 7 frameworks in a literal life-or-death environment. So I want to leave you with this thought. As you step out of this classroom and into the boardroom, which framework will you pull from your analytical toolkit to solve your next high-stakes challenge? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I absolutely cannot wait to see the robust data strategies you all build in the future.
Apex Health operates from a high-security enclave in Ghana, managing a data network where every node is subject to a zero-tolerance policy for exposure. This security posture is dictated by a clientele that includes the Presidency of the Republic. The hospital also serves the high courts, holding the medical histories of the nation's judiciary, and it is responsible for the sensitive health records of parliamentarians. These operations are governed by Ghana's Data Protection Act of 2012, known as Act 843. This law mandates strict handling protocols for all personal information, with no exceptions for high-profile individuals. At this level, a leaked allergy profile or an unauthorized access log triggers a cascade of national security and diplomatic consequences. Managing these risks requires data governance. Professor Richard Boateng defines this as a system of decision rights and accountabilities for information-related processes. Governance is distinct from IT infrastructure. It exists independently of the physical server racks, the firewalls, or the encryption software. It is the logic that answers who has authority over a record, what policies dictate its movement, and how access is granted. Securing VVIP data requires a synthesis of multiple frameworks to ensure every decision is documented and every vulnerability is addressed by a specific rule. These frameworks organize the hospital's data flow, transforming raw patient information into an enterprise asset that satisfies both the Data Protection Act and the hospital's strategic mission. We start with DAMA DMBOK2. This central hub for data management ensures metadata, security, and quality are integrated. Using DAMA, the hospital establishes a data governance office and assigns a data owner to each domain. The head of cardiology, for instance, becomes accountable for cardiovascular records. The owner is supported by a data steward, like a senior nurse or lab manager, who oversees the daily application of quality and security rules. While DAMA maps the landscape, the Data Governance Institute, or DGI, framework makes those roles operational. DGI is used to create RACI matrices, which explicitly define who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed for every information-related process. If a president requires emergency access, the DGI matrix dictates exactly which physician lead authorizes the request and which security officer monitors the logs. DAMA provides the comprehensive landscape of the hospital's data, while DGI sets the strict rules of engagement for moving through it. Apex uses COBIT 2019 to operationalize these rules, establishing IT controls and risk assessments needed to withstand an audit. Under COBIT, every access point to VVIP data is mapped directly to Act 843 requirements, demonstrating compliance through a verified automated log. However, simple compliance doesn't account for the growth of a facility's capabilities. For that, Apex looks to the CMMI Data Management Maturity Model. The CMMI model is a diagnostic tool that benchmarks current data management on a scale from Level 1 to Level 5. At Level 1, processes are ad hoc. If a clerk handles a parliamentarian's data differently than a judge's, they create an inconsistent, high-risk environment. The goal is Level 4, where security and access protocols are quantitatively managed and the results are predictable across the entire institution. While COVID addresses today's legal obligations, the CMMI model sets a technical trajectory that anticipates future security threats. Data governance originates at the board level. ISO standards 38500 and 38505-1 codify the legal and ethical accountability of the hospital's directors. Following the EDM model, the board does not configure hardware. They evaluate the data strategy, direct management on its execution, and monitor the resulting compliance. Those strategic directives are translated into physical systems using TOGAF, an enterprise architecture framework. TOGAF uses the architecture development method to ensure boardroom policies result in actual network segmentation. This process ensures logical classifications for VVIP data dictate the creation of isolated, heavily guarded server enclaves for presidential records. ISO sets the strategic mandate from the board of directors, while TOGAF engineers the resulting network security in the data center. Even in an on-premise facility like Apex Health, the hospital applies the Cloud Data Management Capabilities Framework, or CDMC, to implement modern defense in depth. CDMC provides for automated sensitive data discovery, which scans the network to ensure no VVIP records are residing in unauthorized or hidden folders. It enforces granular access entitlements and strict data loss prevention protocols, preventing the unauthorized copying or exfiltration of health files. Finally, it mandates end-to-end encryption, securing VVIP records both while they are stored in the database and as they move across the internal network. This ensures that even if the network perimeter is breached, the data itself remains inaccessible to unauthorized users. In practice, high-security organizations never rely on a single framework. They survive by synthesizing specific elements from each of them to cover their unique risks. A common error is attempting to reach level 5 maturity immediately. This often leads to analysis paralysis, stalling the governance program before the first controls are even installed. Without active sponsorship from the board of directors, these initiatives lack the cross-departmental authority required to change how doctors and administrators handle data. Treating governance as a technology purchase while ignoring the necessary changes in organizational behavior inevitably leads to a security failure. A data fortress is only as effective as the humans operating it. If the staff does not understand the rules, the architecture cannot protect the patient. In data governance, context is king. The rigid architecture required for the presidency at Apex Health would be counterproductive for a retail brand. Governance is a continuous, evolving program. It is not a project with a fixed completion date. Effective frameworks prioritize clinical outcomes and patient safety over administrative compliance. For hospital leadership, these frameworks serve as the mechanism to verify the security of their patients and the integrity of their data strategy.
Thank you very much. So, welcome back once again to Data Governance Paid Easy. We just watched a video summarizing what we're going to do today. So just take a piece of paper and then write 2 things that you heard from the video. I'll ask you about them, then we'll engage ourselves with the teaching. Quickly write 2 things, whether it's on your phone or your computer or write 2 things that you thought you learned from the video. You picked up from the video. Harold, where are your mates? There are a few of them here. Harold himself is not here.
Simply this cohort 3.
Oh, let's go through. Sorry, Olivia and Steve. Yes, Caleb. And then there's a lady who's the class rep with a nice gentleman.
Abby.
Yeah, where are your mates?
Please, they are here. I think there is about joining also. Yeah. Let me just prompt them again.
Okay, me, I've started teaching. So what did you hear? Abigail, you have come. Okay, you're now joining us, so I can. All right. So please, by hand, those of you heard something. Let me hear from. What did you hear? All of you that were in the class, you were listening to a video. Yes, Marion, very well.
Okay, Prof. Today I learned that effective governance is a journey and not a destination. It is continuous, and we shouldn't just say that we are doing it for a period and then we stop. We also looked at the 7 frameworks of data, the COVID, DGI, and then the ISOs. And I got that if we are doing data governance and then the board and top management are not involved, things like budgeting and all that won't get the funds that we need to carry on. Also, we have to carry the staff along, because if the staff do not understand the importance and technicalities of whatever we are doing, then the security is not going to be a good one. Thank you.
I've said everything. So what will others say? Okay, Winnie.
Yes, so she said everything. But I think the only addition I would make to what Furua has said is I also heard that you can't use the data governance framework for one company for another. For instance, I think in the example they were mentioning that what the hospital and the presidency will use might be more bureaucratic for a small business. So every business has to, it's more like setting it for your own business, taking into consideration how your operations are. Yeah.
Okay. Who is Abigail? Who is your other guy helping you? Is it Caleb or George? Which? I always lose the
It's
name.
Caleb. It's me.
Caleb.
Yes, me.
So between you and Abigail, has the Excel sheet and documenting those who are contributing?
I am doing it for today, Doc.
Okay, but I want only one. I want only one Excel book. So it's just have the sheet one. So one Excel book inside you have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. Portia to had a hand up. Okay, Portia, share what you want to share. Let's go ahead.
Okay, Prof. So I also learned that different data governance frameworks serve different purposes. And also effective data governance requires both a comprehensive strategy and then clear accountability.
Good. So in the chat room here, I have shared a data governance framework, what we are going to use to discuss today. I have an ebook, a simple summary of chapter 3 in a more workable format, in a kind of an exercise format where we go through what we did in Apex Health, which I'm going to use to discuss. So please download it and open it on your computer so that we can start engagement. I'll put it in the chat room in here, But I think almost everybody who is here should have seen it by now. Caleb, have you seen it?
Yes, please.
Okay, then. Thank you very much. Portia, please, have you seen it?
Yes, Prof. I've downloaded it.
Okay, good. So let's continue. What we'll do today is to try and understand the 7 frameworks that they are not the only frameworks in the world, but they are worth knowing. That's what I'll say. Number 2, to also understand the difference between the governance and framework. And then more importantly, to be able to understand how to apply them frameworks and where it matters. What do you do? What do you do? Okay. So starting off, Caleb, you are the one managing data. You are entering people's results. So if you are supposed to go to an office one morning and your supervisor tells you that come and govern our data for us, what will come into your mind? Caleb, what will come into your mind?
All right. Prof, one of the things that will come in mind is where will I keep the data that I'm being asked to govern and the security of the data? Is there any policy that we have for this particular exercise? Those are some of the few things that will come in mind.
Okay, thank you very much. Good. So you'll be thinking about the rules and the actual data. What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to place it? Okay. Now, the difference between data governance and the GG framework or data governance framework is that data governance looks like is the signage and then the rules that govern a road. And then the governance framework is actually the road itself and the signage, physical signboard that you see on the road, and maybe the policeman and other government representatives that are establishing, enhancing traffic flow. So one of them is more abstract, the other one is much more tangible. So the framework is more of a tangible structure that based governance operation, the policies, the rules, the standards and processes an organization uses the tools the organization uses to enforce its policies and reach its data goals. So if governance is the intent to do so, the framework is the blueprint. So blueprint is the framework. That's actually blueprint. The governance framework is more like the actual document that contains or embodies the data governance principles that you have. So your data governance itself is a system of decision rights and accountabilities for information, and there is or the responsible management of information. Who will take that action? Which data will you go? Like Caleb just said, which data am I supposed to govern? When am I supposed to govern? In what circumstances and by what method? And in order to ensure the confidentiality, the availability, the integrity, the usability, and the security of the data. So data governance is the spirit behind it. And then the governance framework is the letter behind it. So one of them is the spirit, one of them is a letter. Good. So as I mentioned earlier, if the governance decides the rules of the road, while the framework is the actual road, and the other physical elements in the road, like the signage and the traffic police that will make the rules hold. Every institution that wants to talk about data governance will be discussing it from the perspective of the fact that one is the rules and one is the blueprint that embodies the rules. Okay, so let's continue. Now, what is interesting is that in our session today, we are going to try to appreciate what goes into developing the data governance, data governance, both the spirit and then the letter. What goes into it, developing it for the organizations that we may work in. Now, there could be different approaches, but what I've come to appreciate is that among all the diverse approaches I've seen and the diverse documents that we call data governance framework in prime principle in organizations that I've interacted with, there are about 11 components that tend to be common to all. Because data governance is going to tell us how to ensure quality and consistency, how to ensure data security and reduce data-related risk, how to foster data-driven culture, we need to have a direction of how we are going to do it. Good. And in defining the direction we're going to do it, it brings us to the components of it. So the first set of components in it here is the vision, goals, and alignment. That's component one. Clearly defining objectives. The document that you are having with you, that's we are talking about page 7. So if you have it opened, you can look at it yourself. Okay. So please, we are talking about page 7. I have mine as a summary, so don't be using mine to guide you. Then you go into the document where I am, then you also stay there. Okay. So while the specifics can vary, what we tend to realize is that everybody who wants to have data governance in their institution should have a vision of why they want to have it, and understand the vision of the institution the goals of the institution, and then come to the business alignment, linking the data governance intent with the business goals and business direction that we have. So you will restate your vision for the organization in line with data. What do you want to do with the data? What do you want to achieve with the data? So, and in that sense, we'll come up with your goals. Tell us, are you improving the data quality? Are you going to ensure compliance? What are the targets you want to achieve? That's what you see after you have stated your business vision. Then you can state your data goals. Then how are you going to align it with business? And why do you have to do so? So the justification for alignment with the business has to be well defined. So the business case has to be well outlined. The benefits we gain from data governance has to also be carefully outlined. And then what we will lose if we don't do that has to also carefully outlined. Lastly, what about the scope? How far is it going? What is it going to cover? Mhm. Defining which data domains, systems, and processes are covered by the framework. Now, when that is done well, you go to your roles and responsibilities. Now, every good data governance framework will establish somebody to look after it, a committee, which is usually at the senior level of management, or the senior level of management may tax another committee on to do so in their behalf. So the executive of the institution, like the executive board, can actually or the board of directors can set up a team to do that for them. A senior level group responsible for strategic direction, we sometimes call them the data governance board or council. And they are responsible for strategic direction, decision making, and oversight of the data governance program within the institution. We also expect you to know who is the owner of the data. And usually they are at a very high level too. Individuals who are accountable for the quality, security, and usage of specific data sets within their domain. So if you talk about a hospital, you can have the Apex Hospital that we are using for this class is a high should I say it's a hospital for the presidency, the judiciary, parliamentarians, and political leaders. So kind of a high level clientele. And in such a hospital, they may have people who actually, or medical officers who are in charge of specific wings. So the presidential wing may be in charge by one superior and one chief medical officer. Another wing for the parliamentarians may be done by another person. So when we say the data owner, it could be the one who oversees the presidential wing. All the data concerning that wing will go through him. And then the person who also oversees maybe surgery, all the data concerning surgery could go to, or the person who oversees, let's say, the political leaders wing, all the data going to that one. So you can have domain specific in terms of stakeholder, which stakeholder, every stakeholder group, and the medical officer who is in charge of that. The data about that stakeholder group would be have one particular owner, and that would be the chief medical officer for that stakeholder group. We can also have it in terms of functions in the hospital. So pediatrics, you can have one for surgery, you can have one for gynecology, and you may have different leaders. Like in some hospitals, for example, in Ghana, we have the fertility wing. And fertility wing has to do with everything about birth and trying to have a child too. So you end up realize that if you go to that whole unit, sometimes they separate everything they do from the typical general practice activities. And they may have a chief medical officer there who oversees that unit. He may be called as the one being accountable for the data security and usage of specific assets within that domain. The data steward then works underneath or underneath the, or should I say, below the data owner, and he may be responsible for day-to-day management of data asset. This can come from a head nurse, depending on who you want to appoint in the hospital that you find yourself in, or the firm that you find yourself in. They define the data, ensure quality, and implement policies. So you can in some offices, it may be somebody appointed by the data owner to do such a way. So he's a steward, and he's executing perfect stewardship for the data that is being given. And what does it include? Make sure that you are maintaining and all the data, managing the data assets Data definitions are well defined and are well also documented. Quality rules and access rights. Now, these are often closer to the day-to-day management of the data. Then you are the data custodian, who will be a typical IT personnel responsible for the technical environment that store, transport, and secure the data. So if you're going to think about where you're going to store data, Caleb, you may have to appoint a data custodian who you are going to do that kind of job with, according to the policies and procedures defined by a data owner and steward. So for Caleb, the question I asked you earlier, the way I asked the question, if I was a CEO, then I'm asking the question as making you the data owner for maybe my small company. Since we don't have a complexity, we have only one data owner, and you are in charge of all our data. And then you then have to then define your stewards and define your custodians. Then you have the chief data officer or data governance lead, often the champion and coordinator of the data governance program, who is also a member of the data governance board or council, he will champion all activities concerning um the data governance program. This could be a deputy of the owner. It could be working with the owner, or it could be somebody who deputizes the owner. Then you have the data governance office, where the council will be sit and who coordinate the work of the council. A governing body dedicated to responsible overseeing data governance program, resolving issues, and ensuring alignment with business objectives. And this office will include a chief data officer. Then you have the data user, the end user who is actually working with the data, interfacing with clients, and actually capturing the data or allowing the data to come in. So that's more of the end user, individuals who access and use the data as part of their responsibilities. Then you have got policies and standards. You have got under policies and standards, you have the principle, high level statement that guide the organization. For example, data will be managed for quality. Data is a shared asset. Data will be our focus on data is by privacy by design. It will be one of the principles that we'll be focusing on. All these things are principles or statements that are high level stated, put out together to be able to establish the governance direction for the organization. Then you have the policies that will underpin the principles. Then we have the data standards and then the glossary and data dictionary. What is interesting is that usually you see that the principles are more descriptive and the data policies will become more prescriptive. So the principles are more descriptive. Data is a shared asset. It describes a lot of things within it. So then I will come and develop the policy to explain what it means that data is a shared asset. Maybe my acceptable use will be in it. My policy for data sharing and data storage will also contribute to data as a shared asset. So data as a shared asset may be a principle, but it may need about 4 or 5 policies to bring it into fruition. Then the standards which we talked about earlier will be more about data elements, formats, and values, which are more specific to be able to enact the policy. Then you have the business glossary and data dictionary. Then you have the processes. Quite a number of processes could be in the organization. For example, you can have ongoing processes, you can have reactive processes, you can have proactive processes, things that you do establish as part of the what you do in the organization. You can also have um, procedures which are for execution. In fact, both processes and procedures are for execution. So our workflows will be defined. Our data management processes will be there. Our data request and approval processes, our issue resolution processes, our change management processes, and our compliance monitoring and reporting processes. Now, each of them, some of them may be more ongoing, some of them will be proactive. You do it ahead, like every 2 weeks, you do something as establish it. That every periodically you do certain things, and that may like backups. It will be established within your policies and how many times you do a backup in a month or when you're supposed to do a backup. Then you may have things that may show up because something has happened. If there's a breach, what do you do? So an incident resolution, incident issue reporting and issue incident reporting process may be there, and issue resolution processes may also be there. Now, Then you have the data domains and then the life cycle, life cycle management. Data life cycle management is more about the processes or the steps in which the data will go through and what kind of principles or policies we want to define around it. So from our data creation to our data acquisition or to our archiving of the data, processing of the data, tuning of the data. There are different steps that we will discuss later as part of the life cycle. Up to the time that we even kind of store the data and sometimes retire the data. Then you also discuss the logical grouping, like customer data, employee data, group data. I mentioned data that's relating to the presidency for a hospital like that we are using for our case discussion. The parliamentarian data may be different. Data for maybe the surgery unit will be different. Data for fertility unit will be different. So all these are domain type of data. So we can logically group the data. There could be overlaps, but we should be able to still define them. Then we have the technology and tools. What software is going to run and support the applications that are empowering our processes? So the data governance software will be one that will help automate and support the various aspects of the framework, such as metadata management, data cataloging, data quality monitoring. Then your data quality tools, software for profiling, cleansing, and monitoring data quality, metadata management tools, system for capturing, storing, and managing metadata, and data security tools, the ones that will focus on encryption, access control, and threat detection. Then you have got data quality management. Data quality dimensions will be different. What is good data? What is quality data? Some people are principles of accuracy, completeness, consistency, timeliness, validity, and uniqueness. All of these have to be defined in terms of what quality data is. Then your profiling and assessment of data. Understand the current data quality, what you have right now, and what are the processes that you put in to clean and improve it. And then how do you monitor and report on data quality? Then data security and compliance, your classification of data based on its sensitivity. So somebody can have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, all of them telling you the level of sensitivity. Some of them are public data, some of them may be restricted data, some of them are highly restricted data. So all of this will play a key role in how you classify your data. And then you also have access controls. Who should have access to what? Policies and mechanisms to ensure authorized individuals can have access to specific data. Regulatory and compliance, ensuring data handling practices align with the laws and regulations. So you have to know in the country that you are in, what could influence your data processes. In the sector you are in and your international partners, what international laws can influence what you are doing. That has to be captured in the data security. And then incident response. I mentioned earlier that procedures for handling data breaches or security incidents. And then sometimes they even add business continuity. After you do the response, how do you continue business as usual? So you may also capture that one in your incident response policy. Then the metadata management and catalog. How you are going to define and store and provide access to information about the definitions. One interesting thing is that some people can have definitions in different software in different contexts. So, for example, you go to surgery and the date is captured as MMDDYYYY. So 4 Ys. Then you go to front desk where you are registering the new patient and the new person who has come into the hospital and creating a record for him. You capture dates as DD, MM, and YY. There's no consistency in how you're capturing data. On one side, you have it in a different format. It doesn't mean the computer cannot understand, but it can also lead to errors. People may not be able to even know where you interchange the MM for the DD. I don't know whether it has happened to you before. You get some forms you are filling, you are not sure whether the first two letters is the date or is the actual month. Who has it happened to you before? So you sometimes have to check whether, because you see 03. 03 can be March. It can also be third of the month. So if you're not very careful and they don't tell you what it's standing for, you may end up entering your birth date in a different way and may give you a different result in terms of the outcome. So please, are you conversant with what I'm talking about? The date nomenclature, how we name this. Yes.
Yes, Prof. Yes,
Okay.
please.
And has it ever been confusing to you before when they don't have the rules apparent and it's not obvious? Has it ever been confusing to you before? Okay, I don't see anybody.
Yes, Prof. It
Yes,
does.
please.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you
Prof.
very much. So,
Organization, we've even made a mistake like that before and have somebody record their month before the date.
okay.
It happens.
Mm. In the US, there's a standard way of doing it for the whole US. And Ghana, different institutions do different things. I'm not even sometimes in the same university, you have got different forms using different approaches. So it's very difficult for us to say that there's a standardization in Ghana. But in the US, I've seen a standardization there. So whenever you're filling a form, you know what is expected of you. Okay, then metrics and monitoring, key performance indicators and key risk indicators. So all of them have to be defined. And how are you going to police them, or how are you going to audit them and assess them, make sure that the organization is following these things? And if there are discrepancies, what are you going to do to be able to improve where there are weaknesses? Because you have got performance indicators and risk indicators. That's it. You also have got communication and training. What's your communication plan? What format is your policy going to be, or the governance framework going to be communicated across the organization or to other stakeholders? Good. And then what training and awareness programs are going to be deployed to make sure that employees cannot say that they don't know, they're not aware of the policy. Then lastly, if there are certain changes that will come with roles, what change management practices are you going to put in place to accommodate the changes that will take place because of the new framework? So knowing all of these things, when we go into organizations, we may see when we go to different frameworks, we see a concentration on certain parts than others. So all the frameworks have got what they tend to focus on, do very well in. Now, let me ask a question. If you were given a role to play as a data governance and consultant, which of these two components, which of these 12, 11 components will play a very key role to name two, which will be of promise, of importance to you for developing your own and a framework for the consultancy that have been given to you? Which two which two will you not compromise on? You ensure that you have those two in your governance framework. Which two? Yes, let me hear from you. We are discussing. Which two? Mm. Dodgy later. I've seen your hand. Okay, we can go up. Dodgy, we'll come back
Um,
to you.
First of
Yeah.
all, it's the vision, goals, and business alignment. Because
Okay.
whatever thing you are doing, it must align with what the business is about. And then I wouldn't also compromise on the policies and standards, because those one will set out clearly what is to be done, and then we can all follow.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. What about Dodgy? Luther.
Yeah, in my opinion, I believe you want to you want to give attention to processes and procedures, because
Okay.
based on my experience, um, even though there might be good frameworks, the mode by which you are collecting the data. So if you are using documents and sending emails between institutions and you are trying to keep track of data, you might get lost in terms of version control or quality
Yeah.
management. So sometimes it's better to have a proper system whereby you can do gap analysis, you can keep track of the versions of data that you are getting. So in my opinion, processes and procedures, having a efficient setup for that, and it kind of goes with the technology and tools. Having that setup helps you kind of get everything together properly.
Okay, so later you realize that when we go to the discussion of the frameworks, some of them are process heavy. And you see that the ones that are process heavy is what you like. Some of them are very process heavy. Okay. Fiano, which two will you want? I hope today you have a better network.
Yes, sir. My network is, in fact, better. I would also take the vision, goals, and business alignment because from the onset, business, you have to have the clear objectives the business wants to achieve before you know what you're going to be using your data for, how you're going to manage it. And then, since I want to pick something different from everyone else, I'll go security and compliance. The
Okay.
access control, the royalty alignment, all that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Security and compliance includes security and compliance includes classification. So it's a very important part. Data classification, classifying the level of sensitivity of the data is very, very important. And that will define your access controls. And that will also inform your roles and responsibilities. So all of these things are kind of linked together. If you have a strong metadata, it makes classification possible because now you understand what goes into the database. Number two, if classification is possible, it means that you can then have access control because you can then say that level one classification should be only given to this type of people. Level two classification can be given to this type of people. So classification will then inform access control. Access control will then reinforce the rules. Who then works on what? Who then qualifies to work on what? And then we can communicate that one through training. You see how they are linked together. We'll have the metadata, go to classification, go to access control, go to rules, and then go to training. Now, what I'm saying here is that the framework is a system, not a menu. I'm not saying that what Lita and then what Fianu and what others said are wrong. What I'm trying to say is that even the ones they mentioned have a relationship with other components. And you need to appreciate the interrelationship that exists between components. So that when you are working on them, you know that if I do classification right, it will affect my access control. Then I can be able to do my roles. Sometimes some institutions start with the roles, then they'll go back and then they'll define the access and they don't map it with the classification. Whichever way you are trying to do, the codependency exists. So have it in your mind. Good. So let's continue. Let's start with the DAMA DMBOK. DAMA means the Data Management Association International. And they created the word the DMBOK is the data management body of knowledge. DAMA is very, very comprehensive, but it is good for anybody who wants to standardize data governance for an industry or for a set of firms that belong to one mother company. So let's say that I have I have yesterday I was using EcoBank, for example. EcoBank has a mother company that Hello, sorry, I lost my data connection. I don't know what happened. Oh, I'm on using the MTN and everything went off, both on the phone and both on my routers. Everything went off. I don't know whether anybody went to. I don't know whether it's raining somewhere. So let's continue. Okay, so continuing from where we left off, this is what I was presenting on. Okay. So the Dama book looks into the a number of different areas in terms of coverage. This is the most comprehensive. So if I'm an institution that wants to develop a data governance framework in which I want you to serve, please can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, yes, we
Yes,
can hear
sir.
you.
Yes, we can hear you.
That's coming true.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just wanted to be sure. So if the institution desires to serve like an industry, so for example, the Bank of Ghana could actually define um, a foundational guidance for data governance in the industry, the banking industry, that all the banks are supposed to build upon that one. I would like to use the DAMA framework because it is very comprehensive in nature. It covers about 11 different areas and it is also holistic and widely accepted by a lot of data professional management professionals. But it is not prescriptive, it is more descriptive. So to tell us what is needed, it will not tell you how you get what you need. So the policies is not developed for you, but to tell you that you need this, you need that, you need that. That's why it is a good framework for anybody who wants to establish a foundation for other institutions who are like-minded or who are in a similar industry or in a similar sector should follow. Good. Then we can go to the DGI framework. The DGI framework is the most practical one, simple to use, and it's a starter kit for anybody who wants to be able to start data governance and doesn't know where it's going to start from. You would like to build with the DGI framework because the DGI framework is also widely referenced. It has 10 components in it. And then what it does is that it helps you to easily understand, and it's more prescriptive to help you to be able to develop all the different policies that are needed for your work, and it's more practical in nature. So it has clear roles, clear responsibility, and repeatable processes. So because it has been widely also used, there are a lot of step-by-step guidance offered around the world and even offered within their platform that the data governance is for you to follow to be able to get your own done. And others also argue that it's the most pragmatic because it actually looks at your situation and it helps you to develop the better framework that will suit your organization. Now, when you go to the COBIT was developed by an institution called ISACA. COBIT is a broader governance framework that it doesn't look at just data. It covers IT because it's control objective for information and related technologies. While it does not focus on just IT, while it's focused on IT, there are sections of the COVID 5 and COVID 2019 that actually draws on the processes of managing data. So those aspects are very strong on data governance, and that's why quite a number of people rely on it. But what corporate is good for is that because it is a standard that people follow for established compliance. So, for example, if you want your a regulator is coming to you and you want to be able to show to the regulator that you are following all the data governance prescriptions that have been defined for you in your wherever you work on whatever sector you're working in, people tend to lean on COVID, especially for a large firm that are audit heavy. So that is because the processes you go through in using COVID helps you to establish sound structures for a very complex organization. So anytime they come into to check or to review your data governance, almost all the building blocks that is near for the type of complexity you have would have been covered. Good. And it will also link it with the information technology. So not just do data governance in as a silo. It will see data governance as part of what is being done with IT within the particular firm. Good. So it's a strong focus on risk control and compliance. If the firm is concerned about risk control and compliance, as you may see in some financial and then maybe insurance sectors, such a firm would like to lean towards COVID, making it suitable for organizations with mature IT environments and heavy audit needs. Primarily an IT governance framework, but includes extensive practices for data governance and then the management of information systems. Then you go to the CMMI, Institute, who have their own called the Data Management Maturity Model. What is excellent about the maturity model is that it will help you to be able to understand where you are in the data management evolutionary part. So they define about 5 steps or 5 or 6 steps that you have to go to. At the beginning is the ad hoc phase, and it climbs up to the time that they have a higher performance or a higher output or optimize governance. So at the ad hoc level, you see that organizations don't have anything. They just do things as it will work. They don't have any formal data governance framework or any policy related to data governance or initiative in the formal sense. So everything is ad hoc, done at the ad hoc and then with an ad hoc approach. And there's an issue, then we try to look at how we can solve it. In that scenario, you realize that you may need the CMM DMM, that's the CMMI DMM, that's the data management maturity model to assess where you are as an organization and then use it to climb up. Good. Now, when you are thinking about growing your data management initiative, you may want to check where you are, and this will be a very good tool for you, your assessment. So anytime you want to do an assessment of where you are in your data management practices, the DMM model is very good starting point. Then you also have, then you have the ISO. ISO is follow the international standards organizations prescriptions for information technology governance, and they have a section for data governance. The 38505-1 provides adequate information, adequate guidance, or adequate principles for information for data governance. The 38505 in general is for IT, but the -1 is for data. So we are talking about data governance. So let's look at the -1. -1 provides guiding principles for data governance. It focuses on governing the governance body's role in directing, evaluating, and monitoring. So you are going to see 3 things there. You evaluate, you direct and monitor. So, and it's done by the executive. So if you want executive oversight over data governance, for example, your board of directors want to get yourself involved in data governance, this is what they will do. They will take the ISO direction, and there are a number of questions that you ask or categories you go through. For each of the category, you evaluate what is currently there, you direct or put in resources and instruction how to solve it, then you monitor it. That's why it is done at the board level. But the board may not necessarily have all the expertise for technology and understanding data governance or even understanding IT. So the board can set up an independent team apart from aside the board who reports to the board, and they do these things on their behalf. But what is good about it is that it gets board approval and it gets board involvement and oversight, strategic oversight and decision making in the data governance activities in organizations. So that's one of the strengths that it gets. So it pushes for accountability right at the very top, and it stays at a very high level. But it needs a detailed framework to complement it in order to implement it. So I will combine the DGI with this one. After the board has given us direction, I will then use the DGI to then implement it. That's how it works for executive oversight and strategic alignment. Then we go to the next one, which has to do with the cloud and cloud perspective. We are in an era that everybody is talking about cloud services and then storing data in the cloud and using data cloud services to be able to become more agile in organizations. So the EDM Council said that we can't actually take our on-prem data governance principles and just take it to the cloud environment. So why don't we develop a very complex model or framework to guide us in cloud data management? And they argue that you have to develop 14 cloud capabilities, 14 capabilities to be able to manage again an effective or an optimized cloud-based data governance. Including these are data ownership capability, data lineage capability, data protection capability, and these are usually defined for hybrid organizations that do cloud and on-prem activities, on-prem storage of data, and also those who are doing multi-cloud environments. So in that era that we are going to have some parts of the organization data going to the cloud is an important measure for you to be able to know what is required for you in terms of even data transfer, data sovereignty, to be able to store your data in the cloud and use it and deploy it for organization. So it's important for you to know. And knowing them means that you can apply them appropriately within your organization. Okay. Then you have the last one, which you call the Open Group Architecture Framework, TOGAF, coming from the Open Group. The Open Group Architecture Framework takes an enterprise approach that includes governance as part of the data. Now, in an enterprise approach, it means that when we are starting an organization or when we take an organization, we know our organization has a business dimension, it has a technology dimension, and it has applications. So many organizations will start with their business and they define applications that run the business and then go and procure the infrastructure that will support the applications in order to run the business. But now what they are telling you in the open group is that don't do that, only those three. Add data at that time that you are doing all the discussion, integrate data governance. So don't just think about business application technology, think about your data architecture. So weave it in that what type of data will run through these applications. How are we going to govern the data? What's the structure for our databases? All of these things are going to be thought about at the enterprise level. So you're not waiting and developing and one day and just forgetting about it. You're saying that if you are now beginning, you're a very complex organization, think about all the four at the same time. If you're already mature and you already have it, but you realize that certain aspects of your firm is not aligning with the enterprise, then go back and look at your enterprise architecture, break it down, and ask yourself, where does data come into? The applications that I have, what is the data architecture for those applications? How do I align it in such a way that I can rebuild my enterprise architecture with data being a focus? So that's what one key strength that it has. One key strength that it has. So if I'm looking for comprehensive data management, I will go for the DAMA framework. If I'm looking for IT risk and governance, and I want to compliance and audit heavy organization, I'll go for COVID. If I'm thinking about practicality, practical implementation, and pragmatism for a beginner firm, a small firm that has begun the whole DJI and I need to be able to deploy, I'll go for beginners and operation, the one for beginners and operational teams. That's the DJI framework. If I'm cloud heavy and I've got a cloud native agenda that I'll build most of my things in the cloud, or I'll try to run it in a hybrid format, means that I have to think about cloud and hybrid governance. If I'm thinking about an enterprise perspective where I have to integrate my data into my business strategy and then build them together to be able to respond to the data needs and the business strategy needs at the same time, I'm thinking enterprise thinking. And such enterprise thinking, I will need a token. If I want strategic oversight from the executive level so that they can approve everything I'm doing in data governance from day one and make it easy for me to get my work done, I would rather go for the ISO 38505-1. Then if I'm thinking about assessing my organization, I'll start with the maturity assessment model that comes from CMMI, that's the data management maturity model. Okay. Now somebody asked that, can we look at examples? Yes, we're going to look at examples. Now, if you are a mid-sized bank with a strong audit function, which you have to put your data ability to manage data or your controls for data to your regulator, you go for COVID. If you are an early stage retail startup, which you want simple rules with clear rules and fast delivery, DDI. If you are a fintech running entirely on the cloud services, you go for the DMM. You go for the CDMC, which was for the cloud. If you are a board, conglomerate board, that are an executive board that wants to own the data and have oversight over it without micromanaging it, then you want for the ISO 38505-1. If you are a utility company, you want to benchmark your practices so that you can have a stage climb or you can gradually move up. So you want to do your assessment of where I am now and how can I be able to move, what do I need to be able to move up and build and address the gaps that exist within my organization. I'll go with the DDM. Now let's look at Apex Health, where governance becomes a matter of national consequence. In Apex Health from our book, please, we are um can open the book and look at it. The case application section. We're discussing Apex Health. I think that's what page. Sorry. No. Case application section. Okay. Have you opened it?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, good. What page number is it? So that those who are confused can
14.
14. Good. Thank you very much. So let's go to page 14 and then discuss Apex Health. So Apex Health is a premier hospital located in a high security enclave near Ebury Gardens, Ghana. It delivers 360-degree integrated healthcare, combining cutting-edge medical technology with therapeutic natural environments, such as including serene gardens, waterfalls, and it serves a highly sensitive clientele, including political leaders, parliamentarians, judicial members, and presidents. So now what is going to happen is that how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we cater for the politicians, parliamentarians, judiciary, and presidents? First one we're going to do is the Dama DM book. The Dama DM book is not prescriptive. We said that it's a descriptive. Like how others do it. They don't do that. It's rather a comprehensive guide looking at the spectrum of data management knowledge areas that you are supposed to address. The core idea will be to establish a robust, centrally governed data ecosystem where every aspect of the data management, from its creation to eventual disposition, is handled with the utmost security, um, management, precision, and in compliance with the relevant regulations. Governance is at its hub and is surrounded by other knowledge areas. So the central hub is the governance hub. So in your governance hub, we are going to have your mission and vision. So the first thing is that your vision will be coming from the organization. The mission will also be coming from what you want to do with data in terms of how your data connects to your data agenda, connects with your vision. So if you look at this one, it said to be a gold standard in secure and ethical health data management, ensuring absolute patient confidentiality, data integrity, and availability to support unparalleled medical care for Ghana's leadership and distinguished individuals. To establish and maintain a comprehensive data governance program that safeguards sensitive patient information and ensures compliance with national and potential international standards, optimizing data quality for decision making and managing data as a critical strategic asset for Apex Health. So within that, you will define your goal and objective. So for example, they have goals that are specific to do with the timing. So they say that they want to be able to make sure that they have achieved 100% compliance with the data protection guidelines. That's regulations as defined by Ghana. They ensure 99% 0.9% accuracy with critical patient data, implement need to know access controls for all patient data. So if you are not If it doesn't pay, if you are not being given the permission, it doesn't cover you. You don't have access to that data. So all you need to know: establish clear accountability for all data domains. Okay, and then foster a culture of data responsibility and security awareness among all staff. And then you go on to talk about the data governance office. It will tell you about the different composition of your office. So how you set up your office, having key leaders for each unit, the mandate of the office. Then you define your roles and responsibilities. So what are the roles and responsibilities? Data owners. That's the head of cardiology will be the data owner for all cardiovascular patient data. And the same to the presidential medical wing. I mentioned that earlier. Responsibility will be for accuracy, security, and confidentiality and proper use of data within the domain. Then a data steward will be a senior registrar, a specialist nurse, a senior nurse, a lab technician, a senior administrative staff managing patient registration. Now, these people are going to be subject matters experts responsible for defining and producing using data within specific areas. They manage data access on behalf of the data owner. Good. Then data custodian, the IT and database administrators who will be working on the data day to day in terms of the technical and infrastructure environment of the data, where it resides and how it is transferred. So they implement and maintain data security controls, manage backups and recovery, control physical and logical access to the systems, and ensure system performance. So data user, all the hospital staff who will use the data, then go to a policy focus. Remember, I mentioned that this one is descriptive, not prescriptive. So it tell you what you need, but to not help you to do it. So to tell you that you need a data security policy, an access control policy, a privacy policy, a data quality policy, a data retention and disposal policy, a data remote access policy, a use of personal devices policy, data breach is incident response. Okay. So within that, you can also have the data rich incident response plan. Then you have the data architecture. What kind of data architecture do you want for your sensitive data? And then potentially create isolated enclaves from the most sensitive data. Ensure the architecture supports robust audit trails for data access and modification. We can audit the data at any time. Integrate various systems such as the electronic health record, the laboratory information system, picture archiving and communication system, billing and pharmacy. Okay. Then you also have got the data modeling and design. What to go into the logical and physical data models for your patient records and other type of records you may have, and the attributes that you are going to define for them for sensitivity. Then, in case for any research or analytical purposes, even internal operational management, data models must incorporate anonymization, so that we are unable to identify by design, so that you're unable to identify any particular patient. Very, very good. And data storage and operations, guidance for Apex Health, primarily on-premise, highly secure data centers, robust and frequently tested backup and disaster recovery procedures. And then if you're going to store data outside the country, you may have to think about it because you have to factor that one in your data storage and operations. Then data security, what the different security protocols that are going to be defined for different types of people in the organization. Okay. Then data integration interoperability. See, the thing is playing, you're now number 6. So data, document and content management, reference and master data management, establishing your master data patient, your master patient index, partition provider master data, codes and classifications. All of these are important. Then data management, data warehousing, data business intelligence. You also have to think about it in terms of if you are going to make sense out of data, what kind of reporting would you want out of it? What kind of board analytics or visualization do you want from it? It may be stated here. And then the metadata management, guidance for the Apex Health in terms of your metadata, the definitions for the data elements, what in plain language, how will you call the president database? president escort security clearance for medical team, patient primary diagnosis. All these are technologies that we come across. Okay. Then the last one has to do, okay, the 10th one is really enough for us. Data quality, establishing the different data quality dimensions that you want to measure and implement the rules to achieve them. Then data handling for ethics, which is a part of the DMBOK too. Guidance for the specific code of conduct from handling patient data, which is very good. With strong emphasis on ethical obligations, mandatory regular training for staff, clear guidance on permissible and impermissible use of the data. Very good. Emphasize the duty of confidentiality and the potential personal, professional, and national repercussions of on ethical data handling. Implementation strategy using the Dharma board means that we'll do assessment and planning, foundation setup by doing setting up the data council office, and then we'll go ahead and then define our roles. We'll use a phase approach because we cannot do everything from the beginning. So we'll choose the ones which are critical domains first. For example, the presidency, then the judiciary, parliamentarians, and then the politicians. Please look at how they kind of take the phases of the critical domains. Good. And then the technology enablement, select and implement an appropriate tools for data cataloging, metadata management, data quality, and security monitoring. Change management and communication is crucial. Communicate the importance of data management governance, train staff on new policies and procedures. Okay. So there's quite a lot to be done in the Dharma DM book. If you don't have time, you do not know that's the one you want to choose. And it's also very comprehensive because after you have gone through all these elements, you now have to now use a DGI to develop a framework. Okay, so the next one will be what? The DGI framework. The DGI framework will go into the most practical and actionable mission-driven approach. What this one too, we will divide the 10 components that it's kind of oversees into three. So you have got the rules of engagement, people and organizational bodies and processes. So in the rules of engagement, the same thing that you mentioned, clearly state all the overall purpose and desired end state of the data governance program. So your mission will be defined and the vision will also be defined. So I like the vision. They said to be recognized as the world's leading healthcare institution in governance of sensitive patient information, where data is consistently treated as protected critical asset, enabling superior health outcomes and national confidence. That's good. The goals within 6 months, what will I achieve? Within 12 months, what will I achieve? Within 12 months, what will I achieve? So you have to define what you achieve within the different activities. And then what will be ongoing and what will be achieved later. So if you look at it carefully, there are those which are quite immediate. There are those which will be done in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, and 18 months. There are things that you're also doing all the continuously, ongoing. So maintain zero preventable data breaches is ongoing. It's not tied to time per se. And about within 6 months, we want to define and approve all data core data policies. Okay. Now, when you have all of these things defined into different months, what is trying to echo is that data governance has to be practical. You should know that based on your resources you have, you cannot go and say that from day one you are doing everything. So you have to be able to stagger it or put in a phase approach and know that what will I be able to achieve at this time? What can I be able to achieve over time? And what can I be achieve maybe over a year? Arrange it in such a way that you can be able to grow and gain more knowledge and sell the whole concept of data governance to your organization so that it becomes part of what they own, not something that was dropped over them. In the same way, you also have to do your KPIs and then your risk indicators. So you have your performance indicators, you have got the risk indicators. We will expect you to have all of them. The number of data security incidents related to sensitive data, the number of unauthorized access attempts, that's the risk indicator. The first one is the performance indicator, the second one is the risk indicator. After you have defined them, you go to a decision rights. Who is going to do what? So the Apex DGI has a framework or a model that they use to be able to define rights. Now, they tend to think that for every type of data that is in an organization, you can have 3 different people, 4 different levels who it concerns. One, who is accountable for this data? 2, who is responsible for the data to implement the access once it is authorized by those one who is accountable. So the data owner will instruct the custodian to make it available to somebody who is consulted. Who is consulted, the head of presidential security, protocol details, and then legal counsel. Who is informed? When we have finished everything, we will write a report. We'd like to know what the senior management will want to know what happened in our units. So then go to who is informed. So it's the Raki model. It has the responsible, accountable, consultant, informed matrix. So who is accountable, who is responsible, who is consulted, and who is informed. The same way that who approves new data field be added to the VVIP registration form. We are adding maybe a field for Ghana card. So we say that who is accountable, the data owner of the patient registration data. And then you go to who is responsible, the lead data steward for the patient registration. Who is you consulted to get this thing done? There's a clinical lead handling the VVIP and the IT. And who will be informed? The Data Governance Council. Okay. So decision rights must be predefined for data classification so that we know how to classify our data. Policy exceptions should be extremely rare and scrutinized for VVIP data. And that is not everybody that you're going to say that can have access without going through what they need for. Then I've got accountability. Ensures that individuals and groups understand the roles and are answerable to their performance. So I've got the data owner, the data steward, and the data governance office. All of them are supposed to manage everything effectively for me. Okay, good. So then the second part is the people. And so the first one was all about the data part that we mentioned, the rules and engagement. Then we are going to the next one, which is the people and processes. So who and who are going to work, who is internal, who is external, that has to really define because that affects access control. And then who is the data management governance office and lead? The office will be set up, but there will be a lead for it. It may be led by the chief data officer or data governance lead, which with direct reporting line to the senior leadership, such as the CEO or the CMO, MO. And part of what you'll be doing is facilitating and council meetings, developing and maintaining data policies and standards and procedures, managing data stewardship program, overseeing data quality initiatives, running data governance, training awareness programs, and monitoring and reporting on compliance and DG program effectiveness. Data Governance Council, groups of people who come together to make decisions. So that has to be defined as part of your people and processes. Then as part of your people and responsibility, sorry. Then you have the processes. Processes then become what we are going to govern and what is going to get the things done or the repeatable steps to carry out the data governance activities. Okay. So in the data governance process, you can have the policy management processes, how you manage policies. Okay. Then you've got the issue resolution process. You've got the data request process, compliance monitoring report, compliance monitoring and reporting processes, data quality processes, metadata processes, data breach processes. Some of the processes can be labeled as proactive, reactive, and ongoing. Proactive such as data management standards, developing data management standards before new systems are implemented, conducting protection impact assessments, and then reactive means that efficient issue resolution as described above, and then incident reports response to data breaches or security events, monitoring compliance with policies, and then regular review and updates of policies and procedures. That's the ongoing one. So what is proactive? What do we look forward and do ahead of time? What is reactive? As it happens, we try to react to it. And then what is ongoing? Now, everybody using DJI will have to start with their vision, mission, and a secure mandate, which we actually saw earlier. Then do an assessment to identify where it is needed most. Okay, so you have the pain points and the high risk areas first. Then you define the roles and responsibilities early. You develop your core policies, iterate and expand. Iterate meaning that you test some of them in a pilot sense, if it works, and then you can. Okay. So iterate and expand, then communicate relentlessly. Emphasize just enough governance. Now, if you look at it very carefully, this one is giving us direct prescriptions of what we should do. The other one was telling us that we need policy, we need policy, we need policy. That's the first one we looked at. The DM, the Dama DM book. Whilst this one, which DJI, which is practical in nature, is actually giving you what you should do, how to start, what is expected of you. Okay. Then we go to Cohort. Please let me take some questions first. If there's anybody has questions on the first two, because there's quite a lot, and we are going to them. And please be going with me on the copy I've given to you. That's the only way we can, because I can't read everything. I'm just taking you through them. Cohort is very resource heavy. And remember that Cohort is also for a place which is heavy in audits. Because it's very extensive. It has 40 governance and management objectives for you to follow. So I mentioned a few of them. One, for example, the EDM01, which is for the executive level, is for ensured governance framework setting and maintenance. So what are you going to do? You are going to establish and direct and maintain governance framework, define the rules, decision making, and ensuring it aligns with the legal requirements of Act 843 and the stakeholder expectation for confidentiality and integrity of the data of political leaders and other clientele. Now, what is interesting is that you also have the benefits. Why do we do this? So first of all, we develop the framework, we outline the framework, then we talk about the benefits. Why is this investment important? What will we get out of the DG activity? Then you ask what risks are involved so that you can manage your risks, assess your data related risks, and then manage them and define the level of acceptability. What is not acceptable, what's acceptable. Ensure resource optimization. How many resources, skill resources do you need to be able to deploy this particular data management? Okay, so all the resources that I need, I will define them, and I will also adequately assess how I'm going to use them for running the data governance activity. Then the stakeholder engagement. Who are the internal stakeholders I'm supposed to engage with? Who are the external, especially with third-party bodies that I'm working with or interacting with or learning from? Then the management objectives. So the first one was much more the executive level. Now let's go the governance objectives. Then we go to management objective. Manage the information technology management. That's information technology management framework. While broader, it set the stage, implementing the data governance framework as part of the overall information technology management structure and ensuring consistency. So the first objective is that you need to be able to manage your IT framework. The second, IT management framework. Then the second one is managing your resources. Remember that you define certain resources in the data governance objective, but here you are narrowing down to the specific human resource that you need. Okay. Then they manage relationships for third parties. How do I engage them and share certain data or information with them? How do they access me to? So who will interact with the hospital data? Ensure they meet the Apex Health. Then you have the managed security links and then managed data. Managed data is a part of the COVID-19 that is more about data. So look at that's where I'll define my stewards, my data roles, my data quality, my security, my lineage, and data retention policies or guidelines. Then the requirement definition, all the requirements, I'll define them there. Then my continuity. If something happens, how do I continue it? So ensuring data is available when needed for patient care, especially emergencies, through robust backup. So my backup infrastructure will come to this discussion. Needed the business recovery and then the business continuity. Okay, then you have got managed security services. How am I going to manage the VIP data and then all types of data that is within the organization? Okay. Then the business protocols. So there are quite a number of them in terms of the COVID. Then from COVID to work well, you have to translate the stakeholder needs into specific actionable enterprise goals for Apex Health. Cascade them to alignment goals, and then cascade them further into governance and management objectives. So I will link what I've done in terms of my IT related goals with my governance and management objectives, where I'll select my APO, my DSS, my DMO3. So the ones I mentioned earlier are all for COVID objectives, but I need to marry them with my business objectives. So I will start to do my assessment, identify my stakeholder needs, identify my alignment goals, and then see which of the principles in COVID will work with some of my goals I've defined. Good. But for each chosen objective that you are going to work with, COVID suggests relevant processing activities and metrics. So you have not yet ended. So you have to develop it for each of them. Leveraging COVID can establish a comprehensive and auditable business aligned and business aligned data governance framework. This will not only help in protecting highly sensitive data from this clientele, but also in ensuring overall operational excellence and compliance in a complex healthcare environment. The structured nature of COVID makes it particularly suitable for organizations that need to demonstrate due diligence and robust control and are audit heavy. Then I go to my maturity model. The maturity model, I love something about it because one thing that you see with the maturity model is that you need to be able to understand the levels of maturity. And I have a diagram that explains it very simply. Okay. So the first thing that I will say in my management ladder for my maturity determination will be the perform level, ad hoc, inconsistent, reactive. Sometimes they'll handle parliamentarian data from different from how the judge's own is done. So it's very risky to move beyond. It's risky to move beyond it, but there's no formal data governance framework or guideline. Then we go to the managed level, planned and controlled by local. We have got some data governance guidelines or principles, but we have done it, we have localized them. So one is at a unit. For example, what is in business school is just there, and there's another one at maybe School of Performing Arts, there's another one at maybe School of Engineering. So all of them are their plan, but they are local. There's no system wide. At this level, that means that usually we don't have a system wide foundational policy for all of us. We not have it, and they're allowing the different units to do whatever they want to do. The lack of standardization can even affect the generation. And for an institution like a university, lack of standardization can even affect the generation of a transcript. That will have to pick data from different places. Now, then we also have defined level, standardized, and then institutionalized. So there's institution-wide policies or in our case, hospital-wide policies, documented policies, which are applied uniformly. And the key target is to make sure that we are sharing information and then we are one, we communicate as one. The only thing that is not done at this place is that if defined, but they are not measuring their the level of the performance of what you have deployed. So you go to a measure level on number 4, where you put in quantitative and qualitative metrics for measuring the accuracy of your data governance framework and the metrics you are putting in place. So, for example, if there are block access attempts from people trying to hack your system or hack your website, it has to be documented and reported. If there are okay, so you have the measured level. The last part is continuous improvement, optimize, seamless. Everything is working together. We know that at this phase, there are no gaps in the data governance. Everything is seamlessly being managed perfectly well. So people understand their policies and they know how to adhere to them. And they are even reporting willingly, speaking up about where there are discrepancies. And you see that the objective here is to even anticipate other type of breaches that will take place, and then they prepare towards it and try to do something about it. Quite a number of the organizations are at the manage and perform level, but depending on the complexity of the organization, some of them are more mature. I believe there are people here whose organization may be at the defined level. So let me just take an example. Let me just ask somebody to see. Magnus Kwakupomi. Where do you think your organization is? Is your organization at the managed level or the perform level or the defined level? Where do you think your organization is, Magnus?
Prof, I think it's at a defined level.
Defined level, okay, defined level. So you socialize and very well. What about you? Very well.
Hello.
Yes.
I
How's that?
also think it's at the defined level.
Hey, are you sure? Okay, Nigel, what about you? Yeah, Nigel, what about you? Okay, Nigel is not here. So let's Portia, Caleb,
From
take note. Nigel
mine,
is Nigel is not with us.
Yes, please.
So take note. The negativity
Hello,
has to.
sir, please, I'm here. Oh. Hello, sir.
You are sleeping.
Sir, please, your question again. Oh, no,
You
no,
are
no,
not
no,
here.
no.
Asking question again. I said, where is your organization? You have got perform, manage, defined, measured, optimized. The ad hoc level where you don't have any data governance is where you is performed. And then manage is when you have data governance, something there, but it's more local for just one unit. Maybe marketing department have their own way of managing their data. But there's no central way of managing their data. Finance have their own way of managing their data. Then there is defined where there's a standard way of managing the data in the whole organization. But then some people go and add a measurement frame. They measure it monthly. They're able to tell us this is the number of breaches that happened. The IT is giving a report on where they have failed, what should be done better, and stuff. So you're at the measure level. I'm surprised. Those are the banks. You should be at the measure level because you have IT institution units that are always giving you updates on what is who have not done the training, who need to do data quality training or a new policy training. Then some of you even have a dashboard
Yes,
that shows.
we do that on a quarterly basis at my place, Prof.
Oh,
So
okay.
every month you have a training that you have to do. They send it to your email. You do the training, and then the record goes to IT and then our CISO department. So anyone who has not done the training, a query is sent to you to respond to the reason why you've not done the training.
Thank you very much. So, Pasha,
Welcome.
Mine is a question. So is
Go
the
ahead.
progress permanent, or can
No.
organization move like backwards on the model?
I wonder what you mean by move backwards. Because if I've defined, let me just say, if I've defined company-wide documented policies and I'm using it there in the organization and it's applied uniformly, I can't go backwards. But if I've put it
What
there,
if the practices that made you
different.
move up the level are no longer being consistently
Yeah,
measured or
that's what I'm just
maintained?
trying to say, that you may have the policy, but nobody is following the policy.
Okay.
Mm, like the Uruguay team, they were fighting with their coach. The coach wants one particular approach to play. The players say no. So when they were having their engagement, they had a 48-minute meeting. The coach told them how the gameplay should be. The senior players said that this is not working. We don't want it. And the coach went ahead that if you don't want it, then you can get up and go. So they went to the field. They went to sabotage the coach. So you can have a policy that is not working and people still want to leave it like that. Or you can have a policy that is there, but people, the incentive. Remember, one of the documents said that you have to actually sell the thing to the employees so that they understand why they are doing it. If you don't sell it to the government, they don't know the benefits of adhering to the data governance policies. They may not buy into it. Others also use stringent measures. If you fail in any of the data governance, if you are the source of a breach, or you contribute to a breach, or you contribute to something, you'll be penalized. You may lose some money. So they are forced to comply. But what I say is true. We can have the policies and nobody's obeying them. They are going around it. Yeah. So they can go backwards. Okay. Why you know of one organization is going backwards consistently.
No, sir.
Hey, you plead the fifth. You are here. Okay, so let's continue. Then if the board has to do something about it, we want to go with the ISO. So the board is going to do evaluate, direct, and monitor in 6 ways. They'll evaluate responsibility, who is accountable for our data, and then they'll direct the documented rules and then monitor adherence. So they'll ask a number of questions. It's in your the document I've given to you. See that there are a number of questions that you ask. Then for strategy they will look, ensure, they'll evaluate. Does our data strategy align with the mission of the organization? Is data being treated as a strategic protected asset? If not, why? Then they'll put in a measure, they'll direct measures for them to make sure that it's going to be put into that light, and then they'll monitor it. Acquisition, they'll ask that, is there justification for the design of new systems? And then are they looking at minimization, making sure that they collect only the information required? Are they also doing privacy by design? That means that they design the system in which that the privacy is thought about in the design of the system from the not after you are finished, they come and tell privacy. So they put in protocols to ensure that people's data remain private and are secure whilst they are designing their system. Are these all there? If they are not there, they put direction into it that this should be done. They direct who and who should do it, and then they monitor. The same thing with performance. They ask that are there metrics for quality, security, and availability for our critical databases and systems. If there's not, let's define them. And when we define them, we should monitor the implementation. Now, what is the monitoring telling us? If the monitoring is telling us there are gaps in areas, what should we do to address them? Then they do address them. Conformance or compliance. Evaluate how compliant the organization is to what has been written in their policies themselves. And if they assess it, they will check whether the organization is complying to that. If they're not complying to that, then they put in the measures. Now, one thing that you should understand is in performance is the fact that the hospital board is trying to ensure that there is consistency. Consistency is the key here. The hospital board is trying to ensure that there is consistency. Yes, the consistency in accuracy, reliability, availability of the data, and the fact that the data is adequately protected. Now, if there are any gaps, the management or the board will direct management to the board will direct management to establish clear performance indicators or metrics for data quality and data security, and they will set expectations for the performance of data governance itself. They will monitor the data governance performance, and then they would like to see it done through dashboards, reports on data quality audits, and security incident summaries. So the board is getting involved. That's what's the whole underlining principle. But the board is getting involved in everything that has to do with performance and the performance. Then in compliance too, the board is getting involved with everything that has to do with compliance. Good. But what I'll also emphasize about compliance is it's not the internal compliance to the policies that developed, but what about the Data Protection Act? What about other rules that are in Africa level or other nations with the countries that we do trade in? So if we are trading in Europe, the GDPR, if we are trading in the US, there could be several of them that we should be conversant with. Okay. Now, the board monitors compliance through reports, through assessments that are done, audit assessments that are done, and then they will also put in the necessary penalties. If you fall short in certain places, they'll put in necessary penalties to ensure that they are getting the best out of what they have set up for the organization. If your board doesn't understand anything with IT, he may need to employ an external team to do so on their behalf. Now, lastly, the board will also be concerned about human behavior, respect for the human factors related to data-related policies, practices, and decisions that demonstrate respect for human behavior. So the board will evaluate the prevailing culture around data handling in Apex. They would check whether the staff are aware of the critical importance of confidentiality and the policies practical and user friendly. Are they practical and user friendly? And do they contain that which will guide the firm in terms of managing, ensuring data confidentiality, integrity, and availability? Now, if there are gaps, the board is going to direct management to foster a strong ethical culture, emphasizing data's responsibility, privacy, and security. This includes championing comprehensive trading programs tailored to the sensitivity of the clientele. Okay, now that we have that one done, we will now move to the TOGAF. The TOGAF is the most complex in all this discussion because TOGAF is about designing governance into the architecture itself. Now, it means that we would look at starting with an assessment of where we are in terms of our vision. What is our governance vision? What do you want to achieve in governance? And then how does the business goals align with that governance vision? So the first thing it will do is to, at the preliminary stage, prepare the organization for successful architecture projects. Clearly define the scope of the enterprise architecture effort with a specific emphasis on critical data domains. That's what it's informing us on. Number one, you want to form an architecture team within the firm that will include the data architecture, security, and health data regulations. Number two, you define or adapt existing organizational structures to support the data governance by establishing data governance council and defining its interaction with the architecture team. Identify and select other frameworks to be used in conjunction with TOGAF. TOGAF cannot work alone. So COBIT for controls, DAMA for specific data management functions, DGI for practicality. You may think about which of them. Then tailor your TOGAF adapt TOGAF principles and technology to suit the apex environment, specific to context, size, and extreme sensitivity of the data environment. So, who are all your stakeholders? And what is the principles that you want them to follow? One, data is a critical asset and will be protected with the highest level of security. That could be one of the principles that you define. Access to VVIP will be strictly maintained by rule and need to know basis. And then all of these principles are stated within the I define within the Ghanaian law and ethical best practices. Then you have the architectural vision. So I've done the business part of it. I've identified what I want to do, the capabilities I need. I put together my core goals or what I want to achieve. Then I ask myself, how am I going to get it done? I develop my data governance vision to establish a trusted and secure environment that ensures absolute confidentiality and integrity of all patient information. How am I going to achieve it? What kind of thresholds do I have or targets do I have in terms of my KPIs for data? Ensuring 100% compliance with Data Protection Act, preventing unauthorized access unauthorized access and disclosure of VVIP data, and ensuring high quality data in terms of accuracy, completeness, timeliness, appropriateness. All of these fall in line. Then streamlining and secure data access for authorized medical personnel. Then you have got the scope of it. What is it going to cover? What type of data will be covered in? Then you secure stakeholder buy-in. You sell the idea to the hospital leadership and then they buy into the concept. Okay, then you go to the business architecture, the data-centric view. This one, so the first one we had was governance. Yes, governance focus. Then the second one was much more about the data architecture. Okay. And then or the architecture vision. Then the next one is more about the business architecture. Then you have another one which is more about the information systems architecture. Okay. Then what is interesting in information system architecture? In here, you are going to define the data model. So you have different security levels. Level 1 for presidential, confidential. Level 2 for judiciary sensitive. Level 3 for patient confidential. Define all of these things. And then you go through the other controls that you need. Then go to technology architecture. So we have got I mentioned area TOGAF covering business, technology, applications, and then the data itself. But here we have seen it in a similar format. So we now have a data governance, and technology architecture in terms of the technologies that we'll be using to manage the data. Then lastly, we have got the opportunities and solutions, evaluate and implement options, identify strategic change management that you need to do. So what are the opportunities and solutions that you have for what you will come up? So some of the things that will come up could be that as you are managing the data, still concerning security, how do you deploy the organization exists already. So what are the new methods for handling data? So you need a data handling policy. What about authentication of data? You may need multi-factor authentication for your data access. These are things that you are going to now integrate out based on the gaps you may see in the B, C, and D. The B, C, and D that you do. Then there's migration planning. Finalize the detailed implementation migration plan, moving data from or moving the whole institution from one state to the next state, and then deploy that the new state that you want to be in is what you have started working. The new architecture is what you have started working with. Then implementation of governance, providing architectural oversight for implementation of the implementation. So the team the team that you set as the architecture team will then provide that oversight. And they will manage the changes that are needed. Because you are gaining or you have senior management support, it's likely that people will follow. Even though there will be some friction, you have to put in the appropriate change management strategies to be able to manage the change that is coming to your organization. Now, all of these things are very interesting to do in paper. but putting them in practice is not an easy thing to do, to actually get out of it. The last one is the one has to do with the cloud services. The cloud services also draws on the Data Protection Act, but it has 6 core components encompassing 14 capabilities and 37 sub-capabilities. All of this is very, very voluminous and tedious. So most often people have consultants who do these things for them. So they work with a consultant to go to, because catching up of this alongside your daily activities as an organization is very difficult. You may not be able to finish. So the first one is component one, data accountability and governance and accountability. So first capability that you want to establish is the key data sharing agreements. For, under what circumstances can you share data? And what type of data can you share? And what are the means of sharing the data? Then data sovereignty and cross-border management. Now you have got cloud services. The data is going through the cloud. And it's moving from one country to another country. So who has jurisdiction of the data? Now, if you go to the other country, the other country will check whether you have also appropriate security measures, appropriate data governance measures as they will expect you to have if you were in that country. So some of these things play a very key role. If you are doing things to do with data of Europeans, you have to be very careful because you expect you to adhere to the European Union requirements. That the GDPR, yeah. Then you have got regulatory compliance management. Good. So I just mentioned that are you compliant to the internal one which is in Ghana, and then relevant healthcare data laws, or this is your the sector you belong to. If you are in manufacturing, relevant manufacturing sector laws that may be of at the Africa level or the target country you are going into. Data governance roles and responsibilities. Who does what? What roles are you going to define? Data cataloging and classification. So we mentioned that you can classify the data into about 5 levels. Public, that's general hospital information. Internal operational data information. Okay, then confidential, that's for general patient data. Then you have strictly confidential, highly restricted, APES restricted, and then APES top secret, which is for the president. All these things have to be defined. But you see, if your firm is not very complex and doesn't need that level of security, you may just stop of just level 2. You may not need all these levels in your organization because you don't deal with that type of sensitive data. Then your access control, who has access to what? Based on what you have defined earlier. So then you apply to the access controls. Not everybody will have access to certain types of information. So this thing goes on. We have component 4, which is protection and privacy, and 5, data lifecycle management. So from data retention and archival, and then data deletion and then disposal, data backup and recovery, data portability and operability, data movement and migration. All these are capabilities that they expect you to have within your okay, yeah. There are data formats, data movement and migration, and the data portability and interoperability. So we expect you to have these capabilities to be able to be apply the CDMC. That's for the cloud services. Now, how will you do this in principle? I know some people are asking questions that, Prof, this is plenty. Covering them, you are even confused. So what do organizations actually do? Well, this is what organizations do. In principle, one of them cannot do everything. So some of them have one primary one and they have others supporting it. So it all depends on where you are. At the top, you have got the structure control. The board principles is at the top. The structure control, measurement and architecture. And then hardened discipline goes below. So if I'm an organization that my executives want to try and deploy this, I'll start with ISO. and I can come and add DGI to get my work done. If I am an organization that I am audit heavy, I may use DMM to measure where I am, and then go up and define a rollout plan or an improvement plan, and then go to COVID, go to COVID 2019 to be able to get the other one done. Good, the other one done. So in principle, I have got I've got the principles, I've got the dimensions here, and I can choose which of them I want to combine. Not one will do it all, but I have to combine them. I have to combine them. I have to combine them. Okay. So please, any questions on these so far? Because we are rounded up on it, and it's now getting to how you apply them. It's not getting to how you apply them. And I hear from good. Mariam, please go ahead.
Okay, Prof, please, are we allowed to say that the lack of data governance is more of a people problem than technical? I'm asking this because in as much as we are talking about all these policies and all that, it boils down to the people accepting and using it. So the technical things may be in place, but then if we, the people in the organization, are not doing it, then what happens to the data governance? Are we allowed to say that it's more of a people problem than technical?
Yes, the people part is not something you can just whip into place. It has to come from a lot of communication and training. So sometimes the training and the communication is poorly done, and that's what causes the problem.
All right, thank you.
Yes, please. Okay. Yes, any other question, please? So the class challenge I'm giving to you, the question that comes in, are you going to use all of it to write? No. Depending on the institution that you're working on, you may combine elements from any of them, but you should know which of them you have used. That one should be able to communicate it in because you are more learned. In principle, many organizations do ad hoc. Unless you have somebody who knows about this or have done maybe CISA, maybe Information Systems Security Certification or a Microsoft certification, or Microsoft has something of their data governance framework too, and I think other institutions have it. So if you have not been taught this one, you may just wing it or go online, there's somebody to teach. You just read online, just follow some kind of templates and they do that. So some organizations pick either a consultant doing for them or they pick ideas from each of them and put it together to create their own. And then just copy people's framework without even knowing what are the principles behind them. Do you listen? I see that you are asking a question.
Prof. Yeah, Prof. So, Prof, I think there is not enough education on this data governance within our institutions. Because sometimes I get frustrated when people into my space and then demand for certain data. Ask, what do you need this data for? Instead of explaining or giving me some tangible reason, they want to fight. I will give it to you. I'll refer you to the data center. Go to data center and get it rather. But then the more confusing one is when you have a colleague in another, maybe the same institution, but in a different company, asking you of a client data, called you and say, oh, can you help me with this person's data? I get confused. I say, my friend, you know, I can't share that data with you. So I think data governance is a good cause, but the education about it within our institutions are not enough.
All right. All right. And I think many people have taken it for granted. Many people have taken it for granted. And we need to do something about that. Many people have taken it for granted. Okay, please, Mayomi Duku, please, you also have a question, so you can go ahead.
Yes, sir, thanks. So I was trying to understand in practice. So after having done this course or this class, if I was tasked to design, I mean, the first question you asked, you've been asked to govern data. Then obviously the next thing is to design a framework. What do I do? Do I, as a novice, do I pick the 11 components, general components of a framework which you gave us, and then based on my context, go and pick items from whichever governance framework I find closely fitting, and then start, merging it? Is that the right practical approach? I mean, since you were explaining how to do this in principle, as a novice, what do I do?
Okay, so what happens is like the class assignment I give you. What happens is that you have to do a number of things. The first thing that you do is that people start with templates. So part of the question and part of the session that we'll be doing, I'll show you certain templates. Maybe tomorrow and next week, I'll show you taking templates. And people pick the templates and they look at best practices from other organizations. So if I adopt a bank, you look for a bank, a data governance framework for another bank, and look at the items that are there. But and then look at the items for that and start structuring the same thing. So you have to have a section. Let me just show you, even though we are not yet going to templates, let me just show you question. That's a very good question. So please give me a second. I want to open. Let me stop sharing this one. So I would there are a number of questions. I would open a template. Just give me a second. Let me open a template. Good. Where do I have templates? Oh, good. I've got templates here. It's in the appendix of the book, but I also let me just drop it in. You are the first class that have actually pushed me to drop templates. So let me drop. I'm dropping it in the chat room here. I'll also drop it on the WhatsApp page later. So in the WhatsApp page here, I'm dropping the templates so that those who are going to use the templates. So good, I'll put it there. So let's look at the templates. And please, I've dropped it so you can open it. And then our dear sister was asking a question about how do I start from? So very good question that has not been asked for the whole week. So this is the template. And there's template 1, template 2, template 3, and then there's a worked example from Nike. So privacy, you see, data governance covers different things. Some of them are just the policies that we need to work on. Some of them is the data governance framework itself. So the data governance policy itself, the first one is a privacy policy and a cookie policy, which has to do with managing your website. So they start with the company name and then the privacy and cookie policy, the effective dates, just as you see how policies are developed. So the introduction of the policy, who is responsible for processing your personal data. This is a privacy policy that's related to data governance, not privacy, just a normal privacy policy for institution. What personal data will you collect? You see, it's data driven, it's more about data. Kids, the data concerning kids, tools that we manage to manage what. Remember, there's a tool section in there, our components. So let me open the components on the other side. So when we go through the policy, we look at the components. You can let me teach you this class especially. Last time I mentioned this thing, and then today you are doing the same thing. You are always good with asking right questions. Okay, so this is it. Let me share my full screen. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, good. I can share my full screen. Please look at it here. So let's check about it again. So, oh, sorry, I'm sharing the wrong document. I'm sharing the wrong document. The class slides, data framework. Okay. Okay. I'll show you how to develop policies right now. This is how to go. So this is it. So privacy policy for data. This is for data. A general purpose template for organizations how to they will collect and use and protect personal data. So they start with the privacy policy. That's the title for it. So the company name will come, the privacy policy, the effective date, the introduction. This is a privacy policy describe the personal data collected and generated. This is just for data. It's one of the policies in the data governance policy or data governance framework, if I should say. So this is looking at the people responsible for personal data, what personal data will collect. So these are some of the things that we will mention, and it covers the policy standards. Then it covers the type of the domains and life cycles, what personal data will collect. And then the tools we'll use, the technology and tools. So after domains, we went to technology and skills. And then we also asked what personal data do we collect and when. Okay, so that one is captured. Who is responsible is the roles and responsibilities. And then the vision, the business alignment is in the introduction. This is just a short version, so you should see that. So you have seen vision part of it, the top part, the vision, and then the business goals and scope and everything is defined within the first part, the preliminary part in the introduction. Responsibilities is the second part. Please, are you seeing what I'm talking about?
Yes, please.
Policies and standards will come later, but we see that there are the data that the domains and the domains of the data that will collect is there is defined here. Um, Okay, good. And then we have the tools and technology and tools will be here. Why and how do we use your personal data? The processes and procedures that will capture this. The justification is coming here. Sharing of your personal data is all about processes and procedures and too. And then protection, security and compliance. The rights to your personal data has to do with it can be policy and standards. Has also got to do with something to do with your more about policies and standards. Okay, right. Then changes to our privacy policy. How we are going to that will come to our monitoring of it, and the questions and feedback, and the contact information, communication issues. The same to the cookie policy. Now let's go to okay, at the end we have got the approved date, effective date, and then the review date. Okay. Now this is a data governance policy itself. That was more good. So that one has the name of the company name. So maybe Marion Foods data governance policy version 1.0, effective date, next review date, policy name. The purpose of the policy will come, the scope will come. Okay. And then it goes to policy provisions. Before policy provisions, the person could choose to do the roles and responsibilities, but he didn't do that. He went to policy provisions, background information, then went to policy framework, governance, the custodian. You see, the thing that he's doing here is defining who and who work on it. The chief data officer, the data governance committee, the data executive, data owner. The CEOs, the creators, and the specialists. Then goes to quality and integrity. We have data quality there. Then go classification and security. You have got security and compliance. Then other principles relevant to the company. So you can choose which of one they want to cover. So some people add the tools, some people add the processes and procedures, all up to the organization and what you want to cover. Then go to policy review. further assistance, accountabilities, and then supporting documents. And then other supporting documents include the national ones that they are referring to, then the international documents that they're also referring to, and then other access to these documents. They may put a link there. Then definitions and acronyms, which is supposed to have come somewhere under any of these, depending on under policy and science, somebody could have put definitions there, but yeah, put it down there. Then appendix, the data management life cycle, they are put there as the appendix, but some of them will put them in the main one. Then the data governance and rules and responsibilities, they are put in the appendix. So this is a template that somebody has that they use. Okay. Then this is another template 3. Statement of purpose. Entities affected by the policy. Who should read the policy? And the data governance structure. Overview of the rules. Data access policy. You see, data usage policy. This one now start mentioning the policy. This one seems to be like the DM book. Those are the ones that they start mentioning policy names like that. Data usage policy. Data integrity and integration policy. Then they stop there and go to related company documents so they can continue 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on what they want in the organization and the complexity of the things that they want to cover. They got the statement of they'll come to related documents, related national documents, related international documents, the contacts, who should contact, then the definitions, then go to approval. These ones have no appendix. Okay, but this one is the last one is for Nike. This is actually from their website. This policy covers this. Who is responsible? What data do we want to cover? The kids, the tools we manage. Why do you want to cover that data? And then who are we going to communicate the data to? How are we going to use the data? The legal grounds, sharing of your data, your sharing of your data, protection of the data, the technologies that we are using, encryption and security, international transfers of your data. So now they are, this is a website. So they are combining the CM, the cloud-based things. Data transfer is captured here. Retention of personal data, your right to your personal data, opting out of the marketing, the cookies and pencil the tax, and then the 9 platform and third party changes to our privacy documents and questions and feedback and who to contact. Please, have I solved your problem? I think you realize that the third one that I showed is the most comprehensive, but it's not exhaustive. It's all about the organization. So here we ended up number 4, where you have the purpose of the then data integrity and integration policy. Then they can have other ones, number 5, number 6, number 7, based on what the components that are relevant to you, or based on what you want to cover. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir. A follow-up to it. So that means that if you pick the document, the total framework document, let's say for Apex, you wouldn't see any headers relating to DAMA, Hobbit, or anything like that. You just see the sections, and then if you're a professional, you know that it
You
was
can.
picked from this
Yes,
framework
yes,
or that
yes,
framework.
yes,
So it won't be like the 7 documents we discussed today together in one booklet.
no,
It
no,
will
no.
just be questions
Yes,
tailored to what they
but
do.
but let me
Uh-huh.
point out something. Somebody may state here at the statement of purpose, and I need that, or may make that this document is developed in the lines of, or primarily from DMBOK data governance framework, in combined with maybe DGI and then CDMC. Do you understand me? Somebody can state it there. And
Yes, sir.
I would like you
Okay.
to state it in your assignment because it helps me to know that you
Oh,
know what you're doing. Oh, but you state it. When we are saying
yes,
state, it
sir.
means that you are picking ideas. Look at this one like this. By the time you finish, depending on your organization, by the time you finish, you would have done things on. If you are doing something that an organization that has a website, by all means, and you store data in the cloud, by all means, you capture some principles from the cloud-based one. Do you
COVID.
understand me? Yeah.
Okay.
Even if you pick 3
Yes, sir.
principles from there, you still have to let us know that you pick some of them from there. And like this one, when we're going through the one for Nike, I told you that some of the things are from there. Look at this part that they talk about. Let me just show you. Data sharing. Data sharing from how you share data. All the things that we saw data sharing only the CDMC. Sorry, yes, the CDMC, the one that has to do with the cloud. That's where we saw data sharing being actually discussed. I don't know whether you realized it. Let me see if I can find. Oh, I've closed it. Look at this here. Data access and entitlement provision, and data access and monitoring. And okay, let me see. Data classification, data regulation, data sovereignty. Good. Data sharing agreements. You see, so sharing is coming from this one. Data sovereignty across border. So there are cross border things in. It was in the Samsung one, but I don't know. Good. International transfer of your personal data is here. You see, so without even you realize that it is. You may not name it the same thing as data sovereignty and cross border management, but you will cover it, or you may choose to do so. So now that they are talking about websites, what they are discussing websites, all of these things are there. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I also say thank you. Very good question you have asked. So let me also show you something. Maybe it will be helpful to look at that one too. So I will upload this one too. So let's look at another sample from a different institution. I'm going to show you several samples now. So this one is from I don't know. Okay, Dixon Academies Trust. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Okay, and what the data governance policy? You see, I didn't write it, they wrote it themselves. And they have put the responsibility for review and the information here. The policy statement, scope and purpose, principle, relation with existing policy and rules and responsibility. That's all. Definition of rules, annex. So look at it. Policy statement, scope and purpose, principles, data strategy, data access. Look at what's in the principles. Data usage, data classification, data collection and maintenance, and data retention. You see it. Then relation with existing policies, rules and responsibilities, data, and the rules and responsibilities, they have all the rules are the data custodian, all the things I mentioned. Then at the back, they have the definition of the rules. You see, that's all. So within 7 pages, they are finished. That is one. Okay. When I finish, I'll drop them in the. It's supposed to be in your. We're supposed to have a session that will look at all these examples, but because you are doing assignment, I have to drop it for all of you. Then look at this one too. This is coming from corporate data governance policy for Institute of Canterbury. They start with a purpose, very, very short and simple. Scope, formal delegations, definitions. So somebody definitions in appendix, somebody definitions in is part of the main document. Then they have related procedures and related policies coming early. Before the principles, somebody related policies at the back. Principles will be here. And look at the principles. Very, very, this is the type I was telling you that this is very DM book approach. Very, very descriptive. They are not writing the details of the policy for you. So they're writing the details of data must be modeled. All data shall be modeled. So it's more about the principles about it. But how to get it done? Data modeling policy is not here. Data, so the data must be safe. Data must be accessible. Data must be metadata will be recorded. Somebody has a whole section metadata. Look at what they have done there. Data custodian, data stewards, then associated procedures for this. So now they start telling you the data standards and procedure. the access to data, authority over data, data integrity. After the principles, so now they are going to through the procedures for getting the thing done. So access to data, this is what they expect you to do. Authority of data, this is what they expect you to do. Data integrity, this is what they expect you to do. Interfaces, migration, version control, backup, retention, describe, all of it, they get into details. Then they go into the roles, who will be doing what. But they are naming actual people, officers in their institution. So who is the custodian, the chief of operating officer? Who is the data steward? So they are mentioning the right people to do the work. And they ended there. But all policies of InfoWeb are in the current version. Please check the date of the hard copy before proceeding. Okay, so this is the data governance policy. Now another one, New Hemisphere policy. Now discussing chapter 7. Oh. So yeah, now jumping. I don't have a problem. Let's go. Data governance policy. Look at it. Department of Education, New Hampshire. New Hampshire, sorry. Introduction, mission of the data governance program, data governance strategy, and intended outcomes, the key roles, data governance committee, director of the data governance program, data governance coordinator, the key responsibilities. They define all the roles and their key responsibilities, very detailed. Data steward, their key responsibility, governance scope, and they ended there. I'm not saying this is the best, but I'm showing you how different organizations, they do what is important to them. Oklahoma, Office of Management and Enterprise Services. They are now doing what I like to see: effective date of the policy, prior date, last reviewed, date of the policy, approved by who, then a reference, then the policy will start. Procedure, data management functions. They even draw the knowledge areas. When you talk about them, look at, they have stated, do you see the dama in here?
Yes, sir.
Good. So they have stated that they are using dama. It's inside. Then they go to data governance program framework, data governance structure. Dama will have that. So the structure is drawn. Everything is inside. Data governance committees, data governance rules, data governance office. Okay, they ended it there. So then you have Nevada. They even have the signatures, the date was assigned this 2010. Office of the Vice President, data governance policy, statement of purpose, entities affected by the policy. I think the university-based ones have that kind of stuff. The data governance structure, then the rules will come. Then they go on to data access policy, data usage policy, data integrity and integration policy. And then they have a lot of other policies that are related documents that you can click on. Then the definitions will come at the end. But me, I advise you that you are doing an assignment, so try and make sure that you answer the question. Cover all that is needed in the question. Okay, this is also coming from the University of NSW. That's University of, I think, something Wales. Northwest or something like that. No, I can't remember the acronym, the meaning of the acronym, but this one is in Australia. So look at the policy statement, the purpose, and the scope. So it's all part of the first part, approved by very interesting way of design, background information, framework principles. So they are using governance, quality, classification, and security and terms. You see our components. They have selected the components they want to cover, and they have defined the components here. So governance will come. After governance, quality and integrity will come, classification and security, and then terms and definition. Then the policy review and the further assistance. That's all. The definitions are at the back, so that's what makes it long. And then they also cover data management lifecycle and what they'll be doing at this step. Then the responsibilities too is here. The ownership and responsibilities, and then the management and operations. They have done that already. So all this one covered almost everything that we want, but they don't structure it the way we did it. they let the main part come in the beginning, and then the rest goes to the back. So please, have you had an idea of what is possible?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. You should thank this lady. She asked a very, very good question. Thank you very much. I have another class, so I will end it here. And I'll stop here. I'll end it here. But I'll share the details of what I mentioned. Abigail, your hand is up. Hey.
Hello, Prof. Good afternoon. Please, a quick one. Last 2 weeks, the marks I took, I sent it to you on WhatsApp. I learned you asked about it last week. Last
Yes.
week I couldn't join because I had an emergency.
Oh,
But then I
sorry.
just wanted to let you know that I sent it to you last 2 weeks,
I
immediately
know.
after the class.
I saw it, but I've been telling Caleb that it should be cumulative. So one workbook, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. So by the time we get to the end, all of them will be in one workbook. Do you understand me?
Yes, please, sure.
The reason
Okay.
why I say send it to me every week is that I don't want that at the final day, then somebody will go and change some things in the week 1 and week 2 to balance some things for some people. So I always collect it at the weekly so that I have a record of what you said that week. So if you give me the final with all of them in it, there will not be any change in data integrity.
Yes, Prof. Well noted.
Okay, but I hope you are fine now.
Yes, please. I'm okay, by God's grace.
Okay. Okay, so I will share the data governance policy samples. Mhm. I'll put it in the WhatsApp page. I'll also put the supplementary material in word form there so that I can have it. Thank you very much.
It's gonna take some time. Thank you too.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
I didn't
Bye.
even think we can finish this session, but we have finished it because the other class took me 3 hours to teach them. We were actually, so anyway, thank you. Yes. Please, you can log off.